All right, Senator Rand Paul, by the way, was open to this skinny bill repeal. It certainly sounded like it. Take a look.
It is disappointing, though, that many Republicans who promised to vote for repeal already had voted for this repeal, chose this time not to vote for it.
You know, I don't know what they're going to end up with it's a skinny repeal thing, Senator, but the whole thing seems goofy in the end.
Well, skinny repeal is better than no repeal.
Okay, skinny repeal better than no repeal. Now, remember when John McCain took to the floor of the Senate this week, he found that kind of talk for a party settling on something because it's better than nothing. He found that offensive. To my next guest, the GOP fundraiser Noelle Nikpour, National Review editor and incredible writer Rich Lowry. We got the Washington Examiner White House correspondent Sarah Westwood. Sarah, begin with you on this. That when people are grudgingly moving forward and saying this is the best we can do, I understand that they're saying this is the best we can do, but I've also heard from House members who said this is the worst thing you could do, and the two could not be more diametrically opposed. How do you think this is going to go?
Well, look, it's interesting because you only see Republicans arguing for this on procedural grounds, not on policy grounds. They see this as a means to an end. They see this as a way to force the bill into conference, maybe reshape it into something more aggressive. Now, Mitch McConnell is going to bring the most broadly appealing version of this bill to the floor, and so we might see it include nothing more than just repealing the employer mandate, repealing the individual mandate, repealing the medical device tax. It includes nowhere near the bevy of changes that Republicans wanted earlier in this process, but he just wants to maximize its chances of passage. Moderate Republicans like that it doesn't really touch the regulatory framework of Obamacare, and conservatives like that it's a vehicle to advance this out of the Senate and finally get into talks with the House and trying to come up with something that can be sent to the president's desk.
Well, good luck on that, Rich Lowry, because if I'm former President Barack Obama watching this process, I'm enjoying it. Right? Because at the worst, it looks like I'm going to get most of what I originally had.
Well, it shows there's just inertia is the most important political force in the universe. And once you create facts on the ground, like they did with Obamacare, it's just really hard to unspool it. But I think this skinny bill only makes sense as a vehicle to get to a conference and write, again, a full repeal and replace bill. And that's the intention of the Senate leadership.
And that's why Chuck Schumer was worried, right? Because you said this is like a Trojan horse. Be careful, guys. They're not really that wounded, right? That's
so the bad thing is kicking the can down the road. The good thing is you are a little bit further down the road. It's better than this dying this week, which it would do unless they had this minimal option.
What are your bundlers, donors, what are they saying about all this?
They're saying this. They're saying if we can't do anything with health care reform, this is what people elected Trump. They elected senators, congressmen on repeal and replace and tax reform, the whole ball of wax. And if we're not doing anything about it, then why write a check? When I go make my case, Neil, to fund a candidate, a Republican candidate, what do I sell them on? Oh, do this because we want to repeal and replace Obamacare. We want, tax cuts. We want this. We want this. We don't get anything. So why are they going to bundle and give money?
I want to target these guys who are dragging their feet, the Hellers, the Murkowskis and all of that.
That would be groups like the Club for Growth.
Right.
You're going to get people that are going to challenge these Republicans that stood in the way of making progress.
Now, Heller is not, I should stress, but he's gotten heavy pressure.
No, but what's going to happen is you're going to see people, Republicans challenging these people in a primary. And people like Heller, Collins, these people know that. And I know that, a lot of them have to answer to their states. But I think that it's not going to stop outside groups from funding super PACs to go into the state and paint them bad.
Let me say a kind word about Susan Collins. Don't do very often. At least in December 2015, when they voted on a repeal bill, she voted against it.
Absolutely.
Right? She wasn't one of these 6, 7 Republicans who voted for it because they knew Obama would veto it. It was entirely a symbolic vote. That, I think, is
no, you're right about that. It's nothing new here. Sarah, one of the things that comes up, but we talk about those who have been in the eyes of the administration dragging their feet, and Murkowski of Alaska comes to mind. She apparently, I think this is the case, got a call from the Interior Secretary reminding her about funds that come to her state. Now, that sounded a little Tony Soprano-ish to me, but what do you make of that, the pressure the White House could exert on holdouts or those who the administration says don't do the right thing?
Well, it's something that we haven't really seen the administration do so far. They've been largely hands-off as this bill has been making its way through the Senate.
Every administration does this kind of thing,
exactly. Right. This is not unusual that they would be doing this. It's actually expected that they would be using whatever resources they have at their disposal to try to get this over the finish line. Now that the number of skeptics in the Republican Party have been whittled down to such a small group, they are hoping that they can pressure those last holdouts into supporting the bill by pointing out that they are the last politicians standing in the way of repealing Obamacare. Nobody wants to be that guy.
Yeah.
So they are bringing every resource they have to bear against these senators. So far, they've left the heavy lifting to McConnell, and I think they realized that that wasn't going to do the trick. They had to get involved. Their involvement is what appears to have salvaged this after the repeal replace plan failed and McConnell had to pull it from the floor, and it looked like this could be dead. Then the White House really rolled up its sleeves, and that's why this might have a chance of passing.
Real quickly, guys, is it your sense, Rich, that this telegraphs troubles on getting tax reform, even cuts through?
No, I think if they fail on this, they'll be more motivated on taxes because they don't want a big goose egg on the scoreboard if they come up empty on Obamacare. But I believe skinny repeal will pass the Senate by tomorrow morning.
Interesting. Okay. Noelle.
I really think that tax reform is the way to go. I don't know if we can ever get it together on health care, but I know that we have to get it together on tax reform, and most Republicans are very conservative when it comes to taxes and will probably more fall in line with taxes than they do in health care.
But, Sarah, not on everyone getting that tax cut, right, like the rich?
Right, exactly. Steve Bannon potentially is pushing internally for a high tax rate for the rich. Who knows where they'll take that?
Yeah, because Lowry's furious about that. Counting on that tax cut. It's not materializing.